Welcome to Wild Worcestershire, the podcast from Worcestershire Wildlife Trust. Each episode will explore the wild corners of our county. From ancient woodlands to whispering wetlands, along the way we'll meet the people working to protect these places and uncover the hidden lives of the wildlife that calls them home. This is a space for stories, for connection and for celebrating nature right on our doorstep. So come with us and discover the wild side of Worcestershire. Hello and welcome to today's podcast. I'm your host Lee Robinson, and today you find me at Smite Farm, and it is a bitterly cold day. It's about -1. We've got snow on the ground, but I'm here to have a chat with our trainees. Now, if you're not aware, Worcestershire Wildlife Trust runs a traineeship programme. It's open to 5 people to come along, and they work for 3 days a week, and in return they get hands-on experience of conservation in the field, and they also get to earn those much needed certifications. Now, conservation is quite a difficult sector to get employment in and to start a career in, and Worcestershire Wildlife Trust are very appreciative of that, and they set up the training programme a few years back, and so far we've had quite a few people that have come through the programme. And today I'm going to be talking to Andy Bucklich, who manages the trainees. I'll be talking to the current cohort of trainees, and also I'll be talking to Amy Fleming, who is a former trainee who is now an award-winning conservationist who's currently doing a master's in entomology. So to begin with, let's go and have a chat with Andy. Okay, I'm here with Andy Bucklich. Andy, thanks for taking the time to talk to us today. Before we get into the work itself, I would love to start at the very beginning. So what drew you into conservation? Was there a place, a moment or a species that set you on this path?
Well, I started back in my early teens doing stuff out with the scouts, playing in the woods, building shelters, chopping stuff down, setting things on fire. All these things we're not supposed to be doing on our nature reserves. But that developed in me a love of the outdoors, a love of working outdoors. I started working with a team, maintaining land, doing conservation work out on activity centres with the scouts, where it was sort of part of the parcel of maintaining and managing the land, not just for the human use but for the wildlife as well. And that's kind of where it all started and where it's carried on, and now I get to teach other people that as well and get them to go causing mayhem in the woods.
It's quite apt to say that. If you can hear in the background, there's quite a lot of chainsaws going on. The trainees are practicing their chainsawing skills today, so they're busy doing a bit of coppicing and cutting down some woods. Hopefully there'll be some woodland left by the end of the day. Yeah. So, well, sometimes we do this work to sort of actually improve the woodland. It's a strange thing that we're chopping down trees to maintain the woodland, but left to its own devices, the woodland sort of forms a monoculture and the shade gets in and the wildlife value goes down. So we go out, the trainees will fell quite a few trees as part of their training, but it's in an area of the woods where it's just naturally regenerating, but as all one species of tree, getting quite dark, quite cold. We open it up, keep the better trees, give them more room to grow, let the light in, the wildflowers and the scrub level stuff then comes back up. The material from the trees we've felled provides instant habitat for small mammals, nesting birds, that sort of thing. Right. So the trainees learn the skills, and we're doing direct habitat creation and management all in one go. So 2 birds with 1 stone, as they say. Okay, so you'll work with people right at the very start of their conservation careers. How do you think the trainees or the public often misunderstand what conservation work actually involves?
Well, I think there's often a perception that it's about just getting land and leaving it be to its own devices. And in an intact ecosystem in some parts of the world, that works. In this country, we're looking at thousands of years of sort of human activity and management of the countryside. In pretty much the whole of the UK, a few bits of Scotland are sort of still original, but the rest of the country, you're looking at the habitats and the species that have survived and thrived from that human interaction. So leaving an area of land just to its own devices, it would all just turn into fairly monoculture woodland, cold and dark, that benefits just a few species. Doing these human interventions that maintain it at just the right stage for the certain species are what it's all about, really.
Right.
It's about sort of getting those conditions right and keeping them right, rather than letting nature entirely doing its own thing, which would ultimately go down in value for wildlife.
Yeah.
And a lot of our most iconic species are the ones that have sort of interacted with that thousands of years of human activity and thrived from that.
So in a way, it's sort of fair to say then that the trainees are learning. That's one of probably the root philosophies of conservation, and they're learning it firsthand as part of the programme.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, everything we do, there's a reason behind it. Sometimes it's a bit more subtle, sometimes it's more obvious. When we go out with the trainees doing a task, as much as possible, I'm always explaining, we're doing this activity out there, we're digging holes in the rain in the middle of a muddy swamp, because that allows us to do this bit of management and that benefits that species. So there's a direct reason for what we're doing.
Right.
They're learning how to do it, and they're learning why to do it, and seeing where they're fitting into that bigger picture.
Right. Okay, so conservation is obviously rooted in science, and it's also a sort of deeply human work. How do you balance teaching practical skills and, say, conservation understanding with supporting people developing their confidence, resilience and well-being?
Really, that's what it's all about. Just by doing these activities, doing them at an increasingly sort of deeper level, from just observing it, doing it, moving on to the stage where they're leading and teaching it, I find that that's where their confidence comes from. In doing all this, both that specific task but individually their overall confidence within themselves. It's brilliant with it. We almost sort of take people in at the sort of timid mouse stage, get them inspired, get them active, get them trained. That themselves improves their confidence. They realise, I can operate a great big running hot chainsaw, chopping down trees, doing things where they'd never have dreamt of doing it before. And that's where their confidence improvement comes from.
Right.
And that's what I think takes them forward. And it's wonderful to see that, and nice to see that that's sort of feeding into the wider future of conservation.
Right. So when you look at a trainee at the beginning of the programme and then again towards the end, what changes do you tend to notice the most?
It's principally confidence and confidence. They're just more obviously switched on, focused young people, or youngish people. We have older members of the trainee team as well. It's not all about sort of young teenagers and beyond. It's about these experiences that they never dreamt they were be able to do before, that they can do at the end, and the confidence they get from that to take them further, mostly into conservation, sometimes into other fields, but it's a case of them realising that they can do things they'd have never dreamt of doing before, in situations where they wouldn't have been before. So you get them out of their comfort zone, but then it becomes their comfort zone.
So if somebody wants to become a trainee, what advice would you give them to get the ball rolling? What would impress you if somebody was in an interview and they wanted to come along and get a traineeship with the trust?
There is a physical aspect to it, but it's mostly about enthusiasm. It's about enthusiasm for being outdoors, for working with the team, enthusiasm for wildlife, because that's what we're all about and why we're doing a lot of this. But it's having a bit of a sort of go and do it. Don't have to have a lot, the process of being a trainee tends to develop that. But you've got to have a bit of a, do I want to work out in the rail in the middle of a wood in the winter? It sounds a bit mad, but it's wonderful, and you can see the way you're going as well.
I know, as being a journalist outdoors all the time, I'm always cold and wet, and I quite like it. I'm quite happy.
It's on a sort of mental health note, it's tremendously beneficial.
Yeah.
Just getting out there with a supportive team, to a certain extent getting away from all the sort of rat race of life. We're out doing something positive, away from all the sort of lot of the nastiness of the world, and that alone is fantastically beneficial for your mental health.
Yeah.
And learning new things that take you forward at the same time.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us, and hopefully you'll have a new exciting batch of trainees in the next few months to get started with.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. One of the things that I love about programmes like this is that everyone arrives with a different story, and they're all learning to read the same landscape. Now, I've been talking to the trainees about what's brought them here and what they're learning, and how this will work in shaping them going forwards. And so I've taken the opportunity, they've been busy today chainsawing, and I've taken the opportunity to grab them during their lunch hour to have a little chat.
Hello, I'm Owen. I'm one of the conservation trainees for 2025-2026.
Okay, Owen, what was it that made you want to get involved in conservation?
To be honest, I never actually had it on my life vision. I always thought that I would do something related to nature and wildlife. However, I didn't know that this opportunity was actually around. Well, growing up watching David Attenborough documentaries and looking at all of the different animals across the world and plants and ecosystems, I just found it absolutely fascinating. And so when I learned that this was going on here in Worcestershire, I was very excited, and I thought, well, I must get on it and change my life around conservation.
Okay, so was it something that you sort of grew up with, or is it something that you've kind of discovered later in life?
I suppose in effect later in life. As I said, it wasn't really ever on the cards to go into conservation, as I didn't really know that it was a career choice. But then later in life, as I got older, I realised that I could actually specialise in conservation rather than going into a different field and actually feel like I can make a difference in this world.
Right. So is there one thing that's kind of stood out during your 10 months so far?
Just what is around Worcestershire, really. I grew up in Worcestershire, born in Worcester, raised, and you never really see the amount of nature until you are out in it and on reserves and talking to people who find nature absolutely fascinating. And the amount that you can learn just by talking to other people and just by walking is absolutely unbelievable.
And is that something you find that you get from working with other trainees as well?
Oh, 100%. I mean, the combined knowledge of everyone here is immense. The trainees themselves, lots of people. Some of the trainees have interests such as animals, others plants, others more technical skills such as maintaining chainsaws, etc., etc. And I found out that really that our combined knowledge is very good and we can get a lot of things done.
Right, so is there one sort of specialist area that you think that you seem to excel in?
Probably more botany rather than anything. I do like a plant, and of course plants are necessary for every different ecosystem in reality. For me specifically, wetlands and plants orientated around water are particularly fascinating, and wetlands in general, to be honest. But I think talking with other trainees and members of the staff at the trust, you get a broad knowledge on everything.
Right, that's lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lizzy Karen and I'm one of the 2025 trainees.
Okay, so since learning about conservation, have you started to see the landscape differently? Say when you're out walking or when it's somewhere familiar, have you sort of noticed things that you didn't notice before?
I think, yes, specifically birdsong. I'm absolutely rubbish at being able to tell the difference between this bird and that bird, but sort of when you're out and about and you hear birdsong, I guess I kind of think of it differently, because even though I couldn't tell you if that was a blue tit or a grey tit, I'm thinking, oh, I wonder what that is, and oh, that sounds like a mate, more like a mating call, and I can pick out some of them, like, you know, I can do things like a blackbird or a red kite or the sort of basic ones. And just being able to spot birds, I'm much better at my visual bird ID and being able to be like, oh, I think I know that one and I know what that was. So that's really cool. But also, especially walking around sort of woodlands, and I mean, I'd always known there was a difference between there's a conifer plantation and there's a deciduous native woodland, but you start to really be able to tell the difference between a sort of a good, ecologically healthy woodland and one that is very monocultural, because just the amount of life around you is so much bigger in the first. And I think that's something that I'd never noticed so much, to just sort of appreciate the amount of life that there is in a lovely native woodland. Because, you know, I grew up walking and cycling and everything, and I think part of me'd always loved the quiet of a woodland, and then you realise that it's actually not a quiet. There's so many more like noises and sounds and things going on there, which is it feels really special when you start to pick up on those other layers.
Right. And is that something that you've found more and more as you've gone through the trainees programme, that you become increasingly aware of it? And has your senses been honed a little bit, shall we say?
Yeah, I think so. Especially walking through woodlands that are managed, but in a sort of ecologically friendly way, like sort of coppicing and looking at things and being like, oh, I know what that is, and I know why they've done it, and I know what the benefits are for it, has been really, really nice. And being able to sort of point that out to people you're going on a walk with, and quite often they're not that interested, but sometimes they are, and it's always nice to just have a chat about that sort of thing. And yeah, I think as it's gone on and I've learnt more, I really do feel like I've sort of picked up on those differences more and more, and just it's nice to be able to go have almost like an interactive walk where you're sort of wandering through and you're reacting to the things that are around you rather than just enjoying it, but enjoying it in quite a passive way.
It's quite funny, really, because you're talking about birdsong, and it's like my experience spreads as far as the Merlin app. Yeah. And I use that because I haven't got a clue. And it's only actually from using the Merlin app that I've actually learnt what the bird calls sound like, and then I've managed to associate what the bird looks like with its call. So, you know, I'm learning all the time. Yeah. And I find when I'm engaged with the trust, I'm constantly learning new stuff. And it is absolutely fascinating. So, thinking about your time here, which is almost at an end, isn't it? I mean, you've only got a few months left.
3 months left, which is terrifying.
Scary stuff. What's one practical task that you've learned here that sounds simple on paper but has turned out to be far more complex once you're actually doing it?
I think it would probably have to be putting in stock fencing. It doesn't necessarily sound that simple on paper, but it's so much. Monkey strainers are the most annoying tool I've used here. You need about 4 hands to work them properly, and it's such, because you have like the crank, and you have to make sure a monkey strainer is what you use to strain the wire between 2 posts. Well, not 2 posts, along your line of posts, to make the fence nice and strong, because the strength of the sort of tensile strength of a fence doesn't so much come from the posts as it comes from how tightly the wire is strained. So yeah, you can't do that by hand, and you've got this machine and, well, a little hand tool, and one end clamps onto the wire and the other end goes around the post, and you have to keep the one end clamped on the wire and the other end sort of where it's supposed to be, and you've got this chain pulling it along and the lever to crank, and the chain's going everywhere, and it's just And then if you get it all a bit wrong and the wire snaps and you have to start all over again. And it's by far the most fiddly job I think I've done. I found it worse than learning to use the chainsaw, worse than everything. And you don't appreciate it when you look around and you see a fence in a field. And that's, you sort of asked earlier about what's something you've started appreciating more about the landscape. I hate to say it, but half of it is stock fencing, and just how much effort has been put into putting that stock fencing in when you walk through some fields.
So really, I mean, your time here at the Trust has really opened your eyes to what goes on in the outdoors world, then. So
definitely, yeah. I have to say, it does make it very satisfying when you can then stand back and look at your line of fencing. I don't want to make it sound too awful. It's quite fun putting the posts in, and once the wire is strained, it's very satisfying to tie it off and look at it. It's just quite a fiddly job.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you very much for talking to us about your experiences, and hopefully in years to come you'll be doing miles and miles of stock fencing.
Hopefully, I hope it gets easier. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sam, one of the conservation trainees for the Worcestershire Wildlife Trust. I'm 9 months into it and I've only got 3 months left. How time goes by quickly.
Okay, so before starting this traineeship, what did you think conservation work looked like, and how has that changed now that you're actually here and doing it?
Well, I always thought that conservation work on a whole, it was such a sort of crucial thing to be a part of anyways. As someone who's always loved the great outdoors, being in nature, hiking, I did Kilimanjaro just before I started the traineeship. You know, I really do realise that wildlife on the whole, it's just such an important part of our lives. It's something that a lot of people say they care about, but in terms of actually doing it practically, it's a different story. Before the traineeship, I did 2 weeks of wildlife conservation voluntary work on a private game reserve in South Africa, Balul Game Reserve. I'm not sure if you guys would have heard it, but it's a really nice private game reserve. I did lots of transit drives, camera trapping, data analysis, sort of monitoring specific species out on the field. Managed to see all the big five, which I'm very, very grateful for, and I hope to see them again. But that really was the sort of stepping stone that I needed. It made me realise just how important conservation is on the whole. So when I came home, brought it back on a local scale and realised that Worcestershire Wildlife Trust was literally just on my doorstep, I thought, well, this is what I want to do, and here I am. So,
right.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned a few of the species, particularly the big five. Well, no, we haven't got any of those in this country.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately or fortunately, if you want to survive. But is there a particular species or habitat or ecosystem that you've worked with here that's sort of really stayed with you?
Well, we did actually a lot of dormouse surveys up at Ribsford, which is north of the county, near Chadsley Wood. So North Worcestershire, really nice. Learnt so much that day, but then I've also done a lot of species work outside of the trust. So I'm actually a member of the National Bat Conservation Trust, and I'm also hoping to be one of the trustees of the Worcestershire Bat Group. So I'm hoping to get more involved next year. I did a lot of sort of transit surveys. I did a lot of emergency roost surveys at Croom Court, which you guys may be very aware about. They've got a really good colony of lesser horseshoe bats scattered all over the site. So to be a part of that and conducting a national bat monitoring programme, it all goes a really long way. So in terms of species work, it's been very diverse for me. In and out the trusts, I've managed to just sort of network with other people, and here I am. I've learnt so much, and there's so much more to learn. So yeah.
So you say that the trust has supported you here, but they've also allowed you to continue gaining experience elsewhere, working with other groups. And do you find that getting experience with different organisations has really helped you?
It's really helped me massively, both as a confidence thing. I was always quite a reserved person, so being able to actually network with these other companies, these other businesses who all share a similar passion for wildlife, it's sort of brought me a lot closer. It's made me realise just how much I love the field, but also, like I say, from a confidence point of things, I can really sort of put my name out there, step out my comfort zone, and I don't feel so, I don't know, just restricted as I used to be. So it's helped me out massively anyways, yeah.
Yeah, so your experiences then, it's really about developing your CV and getting yourself ready for the real world of conservation work.
Yeah, that's it. I've pretty much since starting the traineeship, I've seen my CV just sort of shoot up. So for the next batch of trainees, I really just envy all the work that you guys will be doing. There's so much to learn, so many certificates to grab, but that all comes in due course. But all I could say is just take it one day at a time, but just enjoy it, because you're out in nature, and what more could you want?
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Sophie. I'm one of the current batch of trainees. It's coming to the end of my traineeship here. But yeah, I've always had a passion for nature and the outdoors. Just love being outside, and it's something that I really wanted. I really wanted to get this traineeship because it's something to get my foot in the door, because it's really hard to get a career in conservation, and I just thought this would give me the building blocks I need to get up that career ladder. Might me look good.
Right. Okay, so you've been with us for 10 months.
Yeah.
You've only got about 2 or 3 months left, haven't you? So what's been the toughest part of the traineeship so far? And this could be physical, mental or emotional.
I think for me, my mental health has been quite bad. So I suffer with OCD, and it's not just, people might think, oh, I'm a little bit OCD. Yeah, it's a real condition. It's a mental health disorder. So yeah, I've really struggled, but it's given me a distraction from it, and it's helped me sort of like face my fears a little bit. If there's something like, I'm not going to get into it, but if there's something that I struggled with, like it's like I'm not at home sat there in my own headspace. I'm outside, I'm doing things, and it's taking my mind off things, and I'm before you know it, the day's over, and you think, oh, okay, well, I haven't really been that fixated on what's going on in my head today, and it's really helped, I think. Yeah.
Is there something that's like a huge achievement for you, something that you are really, really pleased with, really chuffed with? An activity or an end product or something that you've done that really does stand out?
I really liked working with volunteers and getting to know everyone, and working as part of a team with the other trainees as well. And you work together, I don't know if we could be putting up a fence or something, and it just makes it a lot more fun. And the labour is like shared, like you're not struggling on your own, and it's really nice. And I've liked especially the species ID. So we've done some newt identification and surveying sort of techniques. So we stayed at Lower Smite Farm, which is where we're based. But yeah, we stayed there looking in the pond at like 9 o'clock at night, trying to find these newts because they're nocturnal. And it's just been really insightful. It's been really interesting. So I think I might go on to do some sort of consultant ecology work. I'd love to get into bird ringing. It's something I can just do for free, actually. But it's really, I like the species identification. I mean, that's something that I really like. Yeah.
Ooh. So it sounds to me then like you've had lots of opportunities to try lots and lots of different things, whether it's hands-on with tools or whether it's doing surveys, and you're getting an insight that perhaps other people from outside conservation would probably not see. You might get the odd volunteers that come and do things, but from your experience, your own personal experience, it sounds very much like you've got lots and lots of great opportunities.
Yeah, it's helped see loads of different types of careers that people have, whether it be in the trust. Our Andy Andy Buckledge, our boss, he's got lots of contacts. So there's like Phil Woodlin from Loire Forest. He's given us a talk about deer ecology. So you get to know all these different types of people and all these different types of careers that they've got, whether it's like, you could be working with kids, you could be working in the media, like with Wendy, and you just get an idea of what goes on behind the scenes, I think.
Right.
It's quite interesting.
Well, lovely. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. We really appreciate that. And, it's only a couple of months left. It's
Yeah.
it's scary how quickly time has flown for you.
It's very scary. It's okay. I think, it's given me a lot, and I think I will be ready to sort of move on to the next step. I think it's good for me. Yeah.
Okay. That's great. Well, thank you for talking to us.
Thank you.
Well, it's been lovely chatting to both Andy and our current batch of trainees, and I would be a bit remiss if I didn't talk to somebody who's gone through the whole system and has developed their own career, and that is Amy. Now, Amy was originally a youth group member who then became a volunteer, who then became a trainee, and who learned her trade through the Trust on the trainees programme before going off and completing a degree, and she's now currently doing an MSc in entomology, and her career has truly blossomed, and she can actually call herself an award-winning conservationist. And I took the time to speak to Amy over the phone. Okay, Amy, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast and for talking to us today about your experiences right at the very beginning of your career, right through to where you are now working with Worcestershire Wildlife Trust.
Thank you for having me.
That's okay, there's no problem. I've got 10 questions for you.
Okay.
So I thought we'll start right at the very beginning. You were part of the Trust's youth programme before becoming a trainee. So what first drew you into wildlife conservation in the first place?
So really, I've always been a very outdoorsy person. I grew up going on holiday in the UK to various places like the Lake District, Peak District, Scotland, and so on. And I've always had sort of an affinity to the outdoors, especially in the UK. And I've always been surrounded by wildlife and that sort of thing. I live in quite a rural area as well, and basically when I was doing my A-levels, I started volunteering with Worcestershire Wildlife Trust and started a blog on everything that I was seeing outdoors on my travels and that sort of thing, and I just sort of really got into it that way and sort of learnt more about it just through obviously seeing things online and on my holidays and all the different birds and insects and that sort of thing. And really that's where my interest sort of started.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
Wow. So from a very, very young age then.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So there you are, you're in the Trust's youth group, and then the traineeship opportunity came up. What made you think, yeah, I could actually do this, especially as you were at such a young age?
Yeah. So really how I got into, knowing about the traineeship was obviously being with the youth group and that sort of thing, and doing all the work through that and learning about all the different practical management and doing that sort of basic conservation stuff. I was sort of really kind of interested in the traineeship because it looked like it offered so many skills, and for me that was really the turning point where I was like, actually this is what I think I want to do, and this is the career I want to go down. And with the help of a few people and sort of encouraging me saying go for it, that was really what made me want to go with the traineeship, and that's how I got into it. So yeah, it was really, really exciting opportunity.
So in a way, it's kind of like steps, isn't it? You start as part of the youth group. You've got that bit of an interest, and you think, actually, I want to do this, and that traineeship then is like the next stepping stone, isn't it? So it gives you that kind of step up from where you were as a volunteer, really, and then it seems from everybody I've spoken to, they've all said the same thing, that it's just opening doors for them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's definitely, like you said, a stepping stone kind of thing. And it was as my skills were developing and I kind of grew in confidence with the stuff I was doing with the youth group. I kind of thought, you know what, actually, this is exactly sort of the direction I want to go with, and just develop those skills that I'd already got at the basic kind of level, and just take those further through the traineeship.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So you were one of the very first cohorts on the traineeship. What did that experience really look like day to day, say, compared to what you expected when you were going into it?
Yeah, definitely. So when I first started, we were all new, and it was obviously a new thing for the Wildlife Trust as well. So day to day sort of thing, every day was different. We were doing something different every day. So one day we'd be doing the volunteer work parties. So that kind of day would be mainly involved in prepping for that and getting all the equipment and everything ready to go out in the field, and help with the volunteer work parties. And that varied week to week. You know, we could be on the Devil's Spitful one week, and then we could be at Monkwood the next week. It was really, really different week on week, and that practical management as well depended on what the task was and what habitat we were working in and that sort of thing as well. And then on the other days we were helping out with sort of like site maintenance, so we do fencing if any fences needed repairing and that sort of thing. And then other days we could have admin days as well, where we'd be doing sort of engagement posts and blogs for the Wildlife Trusts, or dealing with volunteer inquiries and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah.
And obviously all the training as well that we got with the traineeship too.
Yeah. I interviewed some of the current guys a couple of weeks ago, and they were busy doing their chainsawing stuff.
Yes.
And they were all saying that, you know, it's these hands-on practical skills are so important, because they wouldn't have got those otherwise. And I was talking to Andy Bucklich, who was running the group, and he said that the trust spend about £3,000 on the training of each trainee, which is, you know, is quite a big investment for a trust, you know, and basically it is just a way of giving people a foothold into the conservation industry, isn't it? So for young people listening who might assume conservation is perhaps sort of all volunteering, and it's sort of, you know, there's a great deal of uncertainty with that, what practical skills or confidence did the traineeship give you early on?
So it was really what kick-started my career, and definitely my confidence, because when I first initially went into the youth group, I'd never done anything like it before. I'd never engaged with other people, like-minded people, that sort of thing. So there was a few people at the trust who could probably tell you I was quite timid and quite shy, which is very different to who I am now. But yeah, when I started the traineeship, it just gave me that massive confidence boost in my own abilities to do things. And through doing like the practical management and the chainsaw license and the brush cutter license and all of those different training that I got, and meeting different people and that sort of thing as well, I just think that volunteering that I did during that time was just, it was amazing, and those skills I wouldn't have been able to have got otherwise, and that was all through the traineeship, really. Yeah
Okay, so moving on a little bit now, you've since gone on and you've got your first class honours degree, and now you're doing an MSc in entomology. How much of that trajectory do you think was shaped by having that early sort of hands-on grounding?
So definitely the traineeship was that kickstart for me, and I took a year out before going on to do my first degree, my undergraduate degree, and it gave me all the foundations for that year. I'm a very practical learner, and it just I just felt like all of the knowledge that I'd gained during that traineeship set me up so well for my degree. And even now in my master's, 5 years on from starting that, it's just given me all of the theory and all of the ecology and experience that I need in habitat management to basically do that degree. And I think without it, I probably wouldn't have found it as easy as I probably did. Definitely.
That's interesting, actually, because that kind of brings me on nicely to the next question. During your degree, you spent a year as a sites and species officer intern.
I did, yes.
Yeah, that was with Vale, wasn't it?
Yes, Vale Landscape Heritage Trust. Yeah.
So, how important is it then, in your experience, to combine that sort of academic learning with the real world field work?
It is so important, and I definitely found that throughout my degree and obviously doing my placement year at Harper Adams University, having that theory and that practical work underpinning both of the two together, academic and the sort of like industry placement that I did, so important, because then you've got all of the practical stuff that you've done underpinning all that theory, and that experience combined, I just think it's so important, so crucial to obviously taking those steps forward, that it's just so valuable, definitely in this sector as well.
Yeah, I'm finding that myself, going out and recording the podcasts. I've done a few sort of online courses and things like that, and trying to get a feel for conservation, but it's only when I've actually been out in the field recording that I've actually found myself realising that how important it is just to be out there and doing it. You know, I've had brushes with wildlife in the past, but like last year, I mean, I had a really special moment. I was working at one of the reserves doing a recording session, getting some ambient sounds, and whilst I was there, a kingfisher landed on a stick about 5 feet away from me.
Wow.
And then it just sat there looking, and then it sort of dived into the pond, came out with a minnow, ate that, and then sat back on the stick for a bit, and I was absolutely gobsmacked. And I was recording at the time, and my reaction was just sharp intake of breath. And then about a half an hour later, I was walking up the side of the river, and I saw the back end of an otter disappearing.
No way.
And that was and it was just mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing. And for me now, I'm just so addicted. Just from my experiences from being out in the field, you know, it's not quite the same as you guys doing things like stock fencing and that sort of stuff. But you know,
that's the thing with that kind of thing as well. Even if you're doing a job like that and you know you're doing fencing, and you might think, oh, you know, I'd rather be doing habitat management or surveys or something like that, you can still experience that wildlife moment when you're in the field, you know, or having your lunch, taking a break from what you do, and you're still outdoors and you can see all the birds and everything that you're just surrounded by. It's just magical, like you just said. It
is. And I mean, from my perspective, I mean, you know, it's like I wish I could be out in the field every day recording, because it's just absolutely incredible. And I think now as well, my skills of observation have really improved. When I'm out and about, you know, I see things that I never used to see before. So I'm starting to get the bug as well. It's addictive.
No pun intended.
Okay, so right, we'll move on. So your work surveying dormice and other species that you were doing with the Vale, wasn't it? With them, led to you win. Was that with? It
was with Worcestershire Wildlife Trust. I was doing the dormouse stuff.
Okay, right. Okay, I'll chop that bit out.
That's all right. That's okay.
I'll start again. Okay, so your work surveying dormice and other species led you to winning the National Biodiversity Network's Young Persons Award.
Yes,
what did that recognition mean to you personally, and did it change how you saw yourself in the sector?
It was absolutely immense. I remember that first when I got the email to say congratulations, that I'd won the award. It was just, the feeling was absolutely incredible. Even to this day now, when I start talking about it, it was just, I still can't believe it. It's just amazing. But yeah, that was to do with my so it was the National Biodiversity Network's Young Persons Award for recognition for contributions to data collection, basically. So the main part of that was working with Andy Bucklich to do the dormouse surveys, and I was working towards my Hazel Dormouse license. So helping out with that, and also my contributions to data collection through just personal records that I was uploading onto iRecord.
Right.
But yeah, that recognition was kind of like, wow, this is actually, you know, it means something, and to be recognised by an organisation like the NBN it was absolutely immense.
Oh yeah. Well, and the thing is as well, you know, that kind of sets you up then for your career, doesn't it? Because you can now say that you're an award-winning conservationist.
Yes,
which is pretty amazing, really, isn't it? And for a young person as well, and somebody who's at the very start of their career, it's just an incredible boost.
It's still a bit of a pinch me moment when I think about it.
Well, you put all the hard work in, so you know it's thoroughly deserved. Okay, so just moving on. Conservation can sometimes feel like a difficult world to break into. So from your perspective, how does a traineeship help remove some of the barriers for young people?
So it's definitely, once you get into it, it's all the experience that you gain is just so valuable, and being able to then transfer that into other roles in your future, like different career paths you may go down in the sector. And it just really gives you that broad range of experience that you can talk about and transfer those skills in the future. And really, I just think, especially for young people trying to get into the sector, a traineeship, even though it's voluntary, it's just so valuable. And with that experience, it should, you know, obviously stand you in really good stead. And you get to experience so many different parts of the trust, from engagement to the admin side, practical habitat management, social media, that sort of thing as well. So you can definitely get a feel for what your sort of likes are, and really go with that and develop it further.
Right, okay. So if you were advising, say, a young person who loves nature but isn't sure there's a future for them in conservation, what would you say to them now?
I would probably say take that jump, take that leap, get some experience, and then I think, like you said earlier, I think it'll be very hard not to get the bug. I think if you're even considering it, just go for it and believe in yourself as well to do it, because I definitely probably needed a little bit more confidence. But when I started and meeting all the new people and everything at the traineeship, and the people I was surrounded with as well, definitely gave me that confidence to really go with it. And yeah, definitely, just if you're thinking about it, go for it, try it, and then you'll see.
Okay, sage words. Okay, final question. So looking ahead, how do you think programmes like the Trust's traineeship are shaping the future of conservation? So not just for individuals, but for the sector as a whole?
I think from that point of view, I just think that they are, like I said, so valuable. And the way that they shape the sector is that they're just giving so much experience and that breadth of experience that you need, and obviously setting up people to pursue that career in conservation, and really that experience that they can obviously use that in the future, and all of that knowledge and everything that you learn and you can implement. I just think that giving so much people so much experience is really what's paving the way for future careers, and obviously future conservationists and environmental managers. Definitely.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk to us. Thank you. And I know that hopefully there'll be young people listening to this that will be thinking, I'm going to go for it. And we're getting ready for the next cohort of young people, which is really, really exciting. So, thank you for taking the time to talk to everybody.
Perfect. Thank you, Lee.
Cheers. Thank you. Well, it was amazing to talk to Andy, our current batch of trainees, and, of course, Amy, and we found out really that the training programme is incredibly effective. It's a programme that's been running for the last 20 years and has developed and evolved over time, to the point now that Worcestershire Wildlife Trust are producing trainees of the calibre of Amy, who has such a bright future ahead of her. Now, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode and you've got something from it. If you would like to find out more about Worcestershire Wildlife Trust, the link will be in the description below. So, from me, until next time, please do take care and goodbye.